My name's Derek, and I play the electric guitar. So today I wanted to talk about the HX Stomp XL, why I love it, why I think it is without a doubt the best value piece of gear, or at least guitar effect piece of gear on the market, and all of the cool things that you can do with it if you just get a little bit creative with it. Opinion, the HX Stomp XL for me hits the best balance between price, size, and like transportation kind of convenience in that way, general usability, feature set, it's got amp modeling, so it's more robust than something like an HX Effects, but then it's also got a bunch of foot switches, which for me puts it above something like the Nano Cortex or the normal HX Stomp. And then price-wise, you can get one on Reverb for less than $600, and so there's just a lot of value there. It doesn't take breaking the bank. I mean, just forego your timeline or your Big Sky and get it and see how you like it. But it does everything out of the box. And whenever I first bought my HX Stomp, I ended up not using all of my effects, my whole pedal board, and really even my amp for a year after the fact, and I sold most of it. I kept my amp because sometimes you need an amp and you can just not use the amp modeler on the HX Stomp and go into an amp and it's just a pedal board. But I sold most of my pedals because I just didn't use them. I didn't want to use them. I got tired of the whole song and dance of having to buy and sell things and lose out on shipping in order to just try different effects and different types of effects to see if I even liked them or to see if they'd be useful to me. I got tired of carrying the giant pedal board everywhere I went and having to worry about if patch cables were working right, if input jacks were working right, where tone loss might have been coming from, where volume loss might have been coming from. I just got tired of that whole thing, having to rip up pedals from the industrial strength Velcro in order to rearrange things, in order to make room, in order to even swap out patch cables, having to decide whether or not to peel off the rubber on the bottom in order to get a better Velcro attachment, or leave it in order to keep it closer to its original form for resale. It all just got old. I didn't like doing it. For a bit I thought I did, because who doesn't like getting new toys and stuff, but the whole song and dance just got old. I didn't like it at all. And so when I got my HX Stomp, it just worked. It worked great for me. I didn't have to deal with all of that. I could carry it in a backpack. Didn't have to bring an amp, didn't have to bring pedals. And so it was just a backpack and a guitar wherever I went. And later on, I ended up trying out the HX Stomp XL. It's the same thing. It's got the same DSP and all the same features, but it's got 5 additional foot switches, 1 additional snapshot that you can use, and it's got a few extra features that just make it really useful and really usable out of the box. I usually don't even use the external foot switch attachments with it because it's just got plenty. It was relatively cheap for what it does compared to something like the Quad Cortex that would probably also fit in a backpack. And it just does it all for me. I don't need to stick it on a pedal board. I just use it. Sometimes I'll pair a couple other things with it. And if I really want to open things up, sometimes I'll daisy chain my initial HX Stomp with that to kind of get more of like a helix floor type of capability. That way it has just as much DSP to work with, and I can still set up amp modeling and get the effects out of it. I don't do that much, I just don't need to, but I have the option to if I want to. So I really love it. And now I'm going to show you some of the cool things that you can do with it to really unlock and open up its full potential and be able to really use its feature set. So this is my HX Stomp XL. And I'm using the preset that I always use here. If you watched my last video, it's essentially the same thing as what I had on my HX Stomp, but it's just on the XL. It's got a little bit more capability. So the first thing being more obvious, it's just got way more buttons. And so I'm able to, it's set up essentially the same way. I've got my amp drive, I've got my compressor, the red squeeze, top secret OD, and then I've got my snapshot changer here. I'm still just using the same 3 snapshots. That's my bass, my dotted, and my washed. But there is capability for a 4th. I just haven't decided what I would want to do with it. And having the 3 is plenty for me right now. You can also see that I don't have an external foot switch plugged in, and I'm not using the tap as an extra foot switch. But I am using the scroll buttons, the buttons with arrows, set up as foot switches, because I just don't really have much of a use for them, but that's something that you can do. You can set those to scroll through your presets, to maybe flip through if you have a pretty big set. You can have a preset for every song if you want to, or for different sections of the set. So something that I like about this one is it's got this mode button, so that even with my scroll buttons set to stomps, I can switch to a different preset. You can switch through, you can bank through them up and down, and pick whichever one you want. Something else that this opens up is I have this preset right here. I called it Bassman Loop, and that's because if I want to loop, I have this 6-switch looper set up. I'm not going to talk about everything that it does, but definitely the 6-switch looper really makes looping a lot easier to control, and it includes a couple of cool features like half speed and reverse that I think is pretty cool and can really lead to some creative stuff. It is a little bit DSP heavy, and so that is something that is kind of a disadvantage with the 6-switch looper if you don't necessarily want that. But I still have the ability to switch through my snapshots here. So it's still, this is no less capable than the HX Stomp, even with a looper. Essentially the HX Stomp with the 6-switch looper. So the DSP thing is definitely one downfall of the HX Stomp XL, is that it doesn't have a lot of DSP capability. And there are ways around that, but as you can see, I've got this thing pretty much filled out. I've got one blank spot there, and that you could split up your amp and cab block if you wanted to. Right now, I just have them being the same one, but I'm basically out of DSP to do anything with it. So if I were to try and select something, everything's grayed out. What I can do is add a volume pedal, which could be pretty useful, but I don't have an expression pedal. But you could also do like a gain boost there. I've got the DSP for that. So that's something that would be pretty useful with it. So something else that you can do with this though is I've got this preset based off the amp that it's using, Matchstick Channel 1. And it's pretty cool because I've got just kind of a standard, kind of similar to what the other preset is, but based on the Matchstick Channel 1 amp. It's got a little bit different stuff. So it's got the auto swell compressor. It's got a different drive, and then it's basically got the same setup for snapshots here. But what it also has is a switch to a completely different preset. So right here, this red button, I have set up. You can't really see it on the screen there, but it says Matchstick 2, and that's because I have a preset called Matchstick 2. We can jump over to that. As you can see in the, well, maybe you can't see. In the top right, I've got to jump back to the Matchstick 1, so I can jump between two presets there, and you can really make that as extensive as you want to. I mean, I actually have a third preset called Matchstick Jump, again, based off of the amp block, the Matchstick Jump, that was intended for those to scroll between the three presets, and then on each preset, I've still got to scroll between the three snapshots. It really opens up a lot of capability, and then so the use case in this one in particular is that I've got the Scream 808, I've got the different amp, I've got an auto sweller, and so in this case it'd be really useful to be able to kind of get your more ambient, like swelly stuff while still being able to play out. And then Matchstick 2 is just kind of a more drivey amp, and I've included an amp drive setting there to kind of give it the same effect as turning up the gain on the amp instead of having a pedal. Just some different things. It just allows me to change it up a little bit. I've got the B Octaver, and it's just a different setup. And the cool thing is, between the two, I've got basically double the capacity to be able to do double the stuff. Now, I don't use that really because I just don't need to, but it's fully capable. I mean, so you can see I'm able to play, I'm able to activate a bunch of stuff, I'm able to jump between the two, presumably within the same song. Now, one caveat with that is that you don't retain the snapshot, so you kind of have to set it up to have a default value. I've got Matchstick 2 set to snapshot 1. Since it's more drivey, I'm assuming that I'm going to want it to be less washed. And then I've got my Matchstick 1 defaulting to snapshot 3, so it's a bit more washed. But you have those options, and you can do that, and that can go really as far as you want it to. So even though there is limited DSP, there are ways around that. And worst case scenario, again, it's got this mode, and you can just jump between your presets. You can bank through them and select whichever one you want, and it's extremely useful. This thing is just such a great value, and it fits in a backpack, and so I'm able to take just a backpack and a guitar to playing at church, to gigs, wherever I'm playing, and I can just use this. So there you have it. Like with anything in life, there are trade-offs, but you're paying less money for this, and it's not difficult to get around some of the limitations that it has. It really is a great pedal. Alright, so that's why I think the HX Stomp XL is the best value pedal out there right now. Hopefully you learned something from this. Let me know what you think about that, if you use it, if you've had similar experience as me, or if you have had bad experiences with it. I'd love to hear about it. Like and subscribe if you want to, but I really just appreciate you being here right now. If you want to learn about some of the more specific ways that I set up my snapshots and my gain staging, check out this video. Thank you. Bye.